Hola amigos, welcome back to 90 Days of Spanish. This is day 6. Well, first of all, what is today's learning technique? Today's learning technique is what we call 5 by 5. You're going to take 5 verbs and we're going to learn them. In the present, we try to work first with present, then with past, then with future. But for now, present. And then you're going to make 5 sentences with them. So let's say you take the verb caminar, to walk, caminar. You write down caminar means to walk. Remember, ideally don't translate, draw it. It's better for recalling later on to draw than to write a translation. So you write caminar, you draw a little stick figure walking about, whatever helps you remember. I don't know, a duck walking about. You're like, oh yeah, ducks walk. Whatever helps you remember, it's about what triggers your memory, right? Then you conjugate it. You say, okay, in present, I walk. How is that? Caminar, yo camino, tú caminas, and so on. All of the different conjugations, I, you, he, she, we, you, they. Well, you in plural, because in Spanish we have a plural you, as we'll see later in the video. But it doesn't stop there. We need to make sentences, because just memorizing a chart of verbs, it's A, time-consuming, B, really difficult, and C, when you need it, will you remember? Because there is nothing in your memory that will help you connect that verb in your head, that chart that you remembered, that you memorized, with any particular real life case scenario, real use. That's why sentences are super important, your own sentences. So if you're working with the verb caminar, then you write, okay, caminar, yo camino, I walk. Cool. Now let's make a sentence. Yo camino 100 kilómetros todos los días. I walk 100 kilometers every day. That's impossible. That makes no sense. But that's the point. Remember, it's about making recollection easier and better for you. It's about making it fun as well. Like, one of the things I keep repeating to my students is you need to form memories with the language you're trying to learn. When you're trying to learn Spanish, it can't just all be, that doesn't work. That's how we forget things. So make sentences that don't make any sense, that they're funny, that they're silly, that they're funny to you, and that you can later on remember, oh yeah, I remember, I wrote that funny, silly thing with this example. That is what's going to trigger your memory later on. So do that, try that. And then you write a sentence for each one of them. When you're done with that, you move on to the next verb. And you do that with 5 verbs. That is your study session of one day. And you can do that and review them the next day. See how many do you remember? Can you use them? Can you conjugate them? Once you're solid, you're confident that those 5, you got them, then you move on to the next 5. If you worked on 5 a week, at the end of the month, you have 20 verbs under your belt. It compounds, it builds on top of each other. So try that, give it a go. Let's get into the topic we're learning today, and you'll see how this learning technique is going to help you a lot. Today, we're learning something very important in Spanish. How do verbs work? In Spanish, most verbs follow patterns. If you understand the pattern, then you don't really need to memorize everything. Today, we're working specifically on regular verbs that end in AR. For example, hablar, mirar, trabajar, estudiar. Hablar, to talk, mirar, to see, estudiar, to study, trabajar, to work. So, when the verbs in Spanish end in ar, it means it is the infinitive form or the original form of the verb. What in English would be to something. Hablar, to talk. Estudiar, to study. That's important. Keep that in mind. So, what do we do with this information? When we're wanting to use the verb in the present, right, we're just going to take present simple, the easiest form, so that we can start to understand how they work from there, how Spanish verbs work. Let's take hablar. Hablar, as I said, ends in AR, hablar. We take that away, remove the AR, and then as every person changes, who's doing the action, who's doing the talking, you change the ending accordingly. So, yo, I, becomes hablo. Yo hablo. I talk. Tú, meaning you, becomes hablas. Tú hablas. You talk. And so on and so forth. So it's very important that you actually remember the pronouns in Spanish. That's something that I always recommend. I always tell my students, you have to remember the table of pronouns in Spanish. Okay? Here is the easiest one that I recommend to you. Yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. That's the one I recommend. If you remember that, and you have it always in mind, when you're going to learn a new verb, you practice with it, you put it next to it, and then you try to do the changes to the endings of the verbs, to see the difference, to see the change, to notice the pattern. Okay? So let's complete this one for hablar, to talk. What does it look like? Yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla, ella habla. Nosotros hablamos. Ellos hablan. Ellas hablan. What is ellos? What is ellas? Is they. But we have two of them. Ellos is they if it's a group of men. Ellas is they if it's a group of women. And if it's mixed, you say ellos. You use ellos. Ellos, ellas means they. Ellos hablan, ellas hablan, ustedes hablan. What is ustedes? Ustedes is the plural of you. So, like in English, you guys, a group of people. You, but for more than one person, right? In English, there is no difference. In English, you say you to mean one person, or you to mean a group of people. Well, in Spanish, we have options. Tú means you for a single person. Ustedes means you for a group of people. Okay? And that's how it looks. So what you need to do, what I want you to do is pay close attention to how the endings are changing. How is it changing from the original AR ending to the different specific endings for each one of them? Now, that's all good and beautiful, but what do we do with it? I keep saying I want this learning process, this learning journey for you to be practical. So, okay, cool. You know how to conjugate the verb in present to say I talk, you talk, they talk, she talks, he talks. That's great. But let's put it into some sentences. Let's actually make some useful practical sentences you can go ahead and use already today. So, yo hablo español. Yo hablo español. The verb was originally hablar, to talk, becomes hablo. Yo hablo español. I speak Spanish. Let's see another example. Estudiar. Tú estudias inglés. Tú, you, estudias, study. Inglés, English. So the original was estudiar, AR ending, and it becomes tú estudias español. So you see, pay close attention to the endings. It's crucial. It's very important. And it helps you, understanding them helps you save on a lot of time of memorizing lists and lists of verbs, because you start to understand, you start to see the pattern of how is it changing. That's what's important here. Let's see one more example. Mirar, to see. Nosotros miramos. Nosotros, we, miramos, look at, la televisión, the TV or television. Nosotros miramos la televisión. We look at or watch TV. Now, remember what we learned on day 5. We ask questions in Spanish. One of the options, one of the easiest ways to ask a question is you make a statement and then you make it sound like a question. So now you can take tú hablas español. You speak Spanish. And you turn that into a question. ¿Tú hablas español? Do you speak Spanish? Now, remember, because there is no difference in the structure of these two sentences between just a statement, tú hablas español, you speak Spanish, and the question, ¿Tú hablas español? Because there is no structural difference, it is so important that we intonate very, very clearly when it's a question. From ¿Tú hablas español? To ¿Tú hablas español? Very important. You have to emphasize it. Okay? At the beginning, of course, you need to exaggerate a little bit. Later on, as you're more comfortable, you get more comfortable with it, you're more fluent in the language, you can tone it down a little bit. You will know how, you will know when. But for now, you need to exaggerate and you need to emphasize it because you want people to understand without a doubt that you're asking a question. Okay? That's how we ensure good communication, good conversation, right? Let's keep going. If you look at the list of one single verb conjugated in the present for I speak, you speak, they speak, he speaks, she speaks, it looks a little bit too different, a little bit too, oh my God, there's so many variants, so many options I need to learn. But as I keep saying, we need to pay attention. We need to spot the pattern. They are regular verbs at the end of the day. That's what we're talking about. They're regular because the changes have a logic to them. So let's try to spot the logic. Hablar, to talk, becomes yo hablo, I talk. Estudiar becomes yo estudio, I study. Mirar, to look at, becomes yo miro, I look at. Trabajar, to work, becomes yo trabajo, I work. So what's happening? For the first person, for I, for myself, or when I talk about me doing the action, we take the verb that ends in AR, we drop the AR, we get rid of that, and we replace it with an O. Hablar, hablo. Trabajar, trabajo. Estudiar, estudio. Mirar, miro. Okay? Bailar, what does that become? Leave it in the comments. See if you catch what I'm saying. See if you understand what is the pattern. Okay? Very good. So, here is what I want you to do to practice what we've learned today. Remember the technique I discussed earlier at the beginning where I told you a technique you can use to learn 5 verbs in 1 week? Give that a go. Write down in the comments below, what are the 5 verbs new to you that you're going to be learning, that you're going to be working on this week? Write them down and then write your sentences as well. Remember, make your own sentences. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just need to make progress. Write your own sentences. If you need feedback, if you need help, if you need ideas, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. Okay? And any questions from today's topic, I'll be happy to help. Just leave them in the comments. So that is it for day 6. On the next video, on day 7, we're going to be learning a little bit more about verbs. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. And also remember, if you'd like to study with me, if you want to book private lessons with me, the link is down below in the description. You can send me a message, fill out my form on my website, get in touch with me, and then we can do a private lesson online wherever you are. We'll find the time that works for both of us. Right? Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on day 7. Nos vemos.